how do you stay engaged and up on the news and still keep your wits about you? Like, how do you keep your mental health in check while the world is seems to be falling apart? Don't watch the news all day, every day. I don't think our brains are designed to really take that much stimulus over and over and over. This is how I feel about Twitter, even though I am on it more than I should be. If you look at your replies, I bet you, if you look at your replies, even if they're positive, it's really overwhelming. I don't think we're supposed to get that much information, that much communication, that much feedback from that many people at in like such a short period of time.
You don't think that was
It really
happening in the state of
fractures.
nature where you say something on the campfire and then all of a sudden, like hundreds of people start pelting you with their opinion?
No, yeah, people are tweeting you to dunk on you. No, that did not happen. This is all completely new.
And I agree with you about there being an optimal amount of news and social media to consume in a given day. I'm on CNN, and CNN has 24 hours of news. But I grew up in a time when there was approximately 30 minutes of news when it was like just and here's your nightly news and we'll do it again, like the local version and whatnot. And I'm convinced that there's an optimal amount of news that's significantly less than 24 hours. Because,
Yes.
because the fact is, if I have hours of bandwidth of content to fill, then I'll talk about something, and I'll try and make it interesting. And
Yeah,
I'll gin up emotional responses to whatever the heck I'm talking about. Uh, and social media is that compounded. And you're right
that's
that,
right.
so I'm very much on Twitter. And it was part of my presidential campaign. So
Yeah.
uh, it was very high utility, and it continues to be high utility because I feel like it's my responsibility, and I think you and Emily clearly feel similarly, where it's my responsibility to try and put some positive sentiments or ideas out there because people kind of turn to me for a sense of uplift, and I'm very touched by that, and I want to be that, and so it's it's like a function of who I am now and part of my professional role. But occasionally, someone in my Twitter feed will be like, "Oh, I'm trying to get off Twitter." I'm like, "Go!"
Yeah, leave.
I have friends in Silicon Valley who could not watch Silicon Valley or show on HBO because they said it just hit too close to home. They were like, "It's too real." It's
You know, the
too
first time it's really interesting because our show we started filming in 2011, I think, maybe 2000. No, wait, what? Maybe 2013. I forget. But when I was doing the pilot, it was Mike Judge, it was HBO. I told my friends, I was like, I'm doing this pilot. They're like, what was it? What's it about? And I said, it's called Silicon Valley. And they were like, oh, is it set in the 90s? I'm like, no, there's crazy shit going on in Silicon Valley right now. It's weird to think back then we didn't know. I mean, some people did, but we didn't know who Elon Musk was. We didn't know who Peter Thiel was. Like, people had not heard these names. Now these are household names. Um, in the 6 years that we ran, or the 7 years that we ran, the way that people look at Silicon Valley has changed so quickly. And for me, it was a real wake up call because I think it was season 2 or 3. We would sort of do these trips, right? We would go to Silicon Valley and we would show the episode and we'd sort of like tour companies and get to see what they were working on. And they were very excited to have us because we're we're doing a show about what they do. I was stunned at what little thought was going into the moral and ethical ramifications of the technology that they were working on. Um, I remember, I won't name the company, but they were showing us this new product that's now on the market that many people have. And they were like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And so we brought up a privacy concern. And it wasn't, they didn't have, they were shocked that they were asked this question. They didn't even have like a fake corporate answer ready to go. They were stunned and a little upset and disappointed that we would even think of that. I feel like there's this sense in the tech world, and I'm sure you know this much better than I do, that technology is completely amoral. It's a tool, you make it, and how it's used, well, it's not up to us. Well, I don't think that's right. I think, first of all, there's no way that laws can keep up with technology. And I do think it's the responsibility of people developing this technology to consider the possible negative uses for it. I can, I mean, the deep fake stuff, all that stuff. I don't think you can just like keep developing and close your eyes and ears to the fact that these things can be really misused.
They're being misused every day, in part because they serve the almighty marketplace. And we know right now the
Yeah.
marketplace just wants to monetize us and our attention, whether or not that's good for democracy, our mental health, humanity, free will, our ability to come together and solve problems, our ability to settle on facts or the truth. We're all now just subject to this surveillance capitalism machine that sells and resells us to the tune of 200
I
billion
mean,
plus a year.
yeah, that's what you always hear, where you're like, if the app is free, you're the product.
And so right now I'm trying to help people wake up to what's going on with our data and our privacy rights. There's actually a prop
Mm.
in California in November, Prop 24, that I'm super excited about, that it's going to create a dedicated data protection agency in the state of California to look out for California data and
Ooh,
privacy rights, which right now a lot of companies are frankly just totally abusing and just being like, whatever, like there's no enforcement.
of course.
So if
Yeah.
Prop 24 passes in November, then all of a sudden the state has to create an enforcement agency and mechanism, and then you're going to see corporate behavior change. Because
That's
until there's actually someone looking after it and then showing up and saying, hey, like there's a problem here. So believe it or not, this stuff is cutting edge right now. This stuff's literally on the ballot in like a matter of weeks.
good. I mean, that's the tricky thing, if you see like these hearings when like Zuckerberg or any of these folks go, the questions they're being asked, it's scary
They're not
because you're like,
inspiring.
no,
It's
they
not inspiring stuff.
know about the most basic tech stuff. Like it just is. It's really upsetting that. Honestly, I mean, this Prop 24. Vote yes on Prop 24. That's good. I'm gonna use Twitter to get that word out, because I do think that that is sort of the big existential crisis that we're heading towards right now. Is big tech. I think it's a formidable foe. I feel like for all the great stuff that the internet has done, I think it's I mean, it's fractured the conversation so much to the point where it's not even a conversation. I remember when I was a computer science major, I would go to my professor's office, and he was this guy. He was like a philosopher and a computer scientist, and he was one of the original guys who was involved with the internet and stuff. And he had this quote on his desk from a group of early people who were sort of trying to talk about technology and the benefits it's going to provide humanity. And he said something like, "The rise of the internet is the promise of the return of voice." And I found that so inspiring. I was like, that's true. The promise of the internet is I can talk to someone in Bulgaria. I can like have a real conversation with them. You really can connect with people who have different experiences from you, different perspectives from you, see the world entirely differently, and you can have a conversation with them. In reality, what's happened is you just find the people who exactly agree with you, and then you just talk amongst yourselves, and then you yell at the other people who disagree with you. So it's really gone in a completely different direction than I think these original sort of tech thinkers had thought it would. And I don't know how. I don't know where we go. I feel like the internet is like this serpent that we made that's now swallowing us whole.
One of my goals is to get the serpent under control, Kumail, and like I may actually have that job before too long if things head in a particular direction.
I hope they head in a particular direction.
It's funny. I was just musing to myself the fact that I feel like you're one of the most prominent voices in this direction because of Silicon Valley, which is sort of ironic because obviously it was a television show, and yet I feel like everyone identifies you so closely with this set of issues in part because we just watch you on HBO for years on end.
I know, and I'm just saying stuff that they wrote for me. I really shouldn't be the guy. Don't look to me for any insight into it. But the writers and the creators were very, very. I mean, they knew all these CEOs, right? So we
Oh,
really,
it's all
really,
real. Like, the fact that it's like
yeah.
art imitating life or whatnot. Plus the fact that you're genuinely like a computer science grad who worked in the field for years. So I don't know if that helped them cast you. Where they're like, oh, this guy's really convincing.
Well, no, because I was really bad at computer science. I never got it. But I was just, it's funny to go from sitting behind a row of computers, being the worst guy, to then being on set, sitting behind a row of computers and being the best guy. Like, I was the only one out of the cast that like understood a little bit what the code was. So that was a weird experience.
Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, please do subscribe to Yang Speaks and click on notifications so we can let you know every time we have a new episode.